we didn't get to moving, didn't we? But Jimmy, you moved the resolution on that, and I thought Anne seconded it.
It's just needed in the right order.
Are you moving the community board one, not the new one? Well, that's not the community board resolution. We've changed it to noting included within the LTP budget. So there's no additional budget. So can I have staff back, because we've got some more questions. Sorry, do apologise. I know you were trying to get out of it, but there you go, Mike.
Thank you. Just a question on bike park. How much bike parking is there? Because I can only see in this diagram 4. So I'm just wondering what the total number is.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but there's 4 or 5 on the south side of the building by the car park, but there's a large bike park area on the north side, just off Waterloo Road, partly under the overhang roof of the building. Okay. It'd be 100 plus.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Aaron?
Similar questions to Mike, just the disability parking. There's none marked on the design that I looked at.
I think the drawing itself hasn't got the symbol on there. There's about 6 car parks, again, just on the south side of the building towards the west side. That you can see the hatching on the sort of that they have the hatched strips between the parks.
Oh, you can?
You want to borrow someone's glasses?
Oh, so those 6 that face right down towards the orange bit.
So I think if you look
Okay.
on page 11, they're demonstrated on, on there.
Yep, Melanie,
Okay.
and then Jimmy.
Carolyn asked me to ask us about disability, but I was going to ask you, can you promise that there'll be no issues around it? I know it says that it's been consulted, shown with the disability sector, but that happened with the Punawai as well, and there's been issues. So can you talk to that?
We've had repeated discussions with representatives that cover a number of groups in the disability sector. They've been happy with it to date.
Has that included like where observers will be for the pool and things like that, which is sort of the issue in Punawai?
Yes, parking of wheelchairs in the pool area, all those sorts of things. We've sort of run through from the car park, out of the vehicle, through into the pool, support people.
And where
change.
barriers won't be in the line of sight of people's eyes or anything like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Jimmy?
The paragraph 3 regarding to the escalation of cost. Can you please talk to us? You cover what time the period? Which year time period?
So in terms of question, the budget of $35.7 million,
Yes.
in terms of determining that QS estimate allows for escalation costs through the delivery of the project. So if it was signed off based on the timeline that's currently on budget, escalation costs have been included within that.
Okay, if that's true, because the community at the moment they try to the fundraising, can get more kind of funding, fill the gap to build up at the moment we are option for the hydrotherapy pool. Whether this escalation can cover some of them, portion of them or not.
So in terms of talking about the concept design and the QS estimate, came in at a figure that was required to put the hydrotherapy pool in.
Yes.
Through the design process, we're making every allowance possible to add that pool if we don't receive all the funding in full.
Yes.
So in terms of it will be added on to the end of the building to go
Yes.
through that. Could the escalations with the contingency cover some of the cost of the hydrotherapy pool?
Yes.
At the moment, at the start of the project, escalations and contingency are exactly that, in terms of they're not for increasing the scope of the facility.
Yes.
And we're not making those mistakes again.
Okay, so you mean no additional cost anytime, to build up the kind of hydrotherapy pool? No additional?
Sorry,
For clarity, if I think is what you're asking,
Yes.
the contingency budget will not be utilised for the hydrotherapy pool. It will be kept for contingency.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, the community are fundraising for the high.
Yeah, I understand, but my question is, because the fundraising need to take a time, whether any time if attached to build up those ones, whether have additional costs.
Is there a period beyond which the hydrotherapy pool can't go in, or can it go in after the build's complete?
It can go in after the build's complete, if
Thank
we
you.
reflect back.
So there's no constraint on the fundraising time for the community?
No, just to be really clear though, in terms of if they were to have the hydrotherapy pool complete at the same time this building was being built by whatever construction firm does it, yes, there will be a time frame on that, and we'll work our way through that. If it gets to a point in time and it needs to be added by another firm afterwards, then yes, we'll work out whether that is, and that could be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's a bit of a moving feast.
But there might be an additional cost
Yeah.
to
What-
retrofitting.
What we did say in terms of before we went to market, in terms of to include the hydrotherapy pool as part of the project for when we go to market, in terms of we would need that information by Christmas, by November, but in terms of
The information, as
in terms of whether the funds were available to be included in that procurement, but we can shift that out as we go through the project. So like Taiora Kiwi 2, where we added the hydrotherapy pool halfway through the project, we can make adjustments through that.
can you alert potential contractors or through the procurement process that there may be an additional
Yes.
opportunity
Yes,
for them?
that is part of it, because that's part of the concept design.
And they could potentially contribute themselves as part of the awarding of the tender.
Yes.
That is an entirely appropriate process, as I understand it, for procurement.
Yes, we can ask that question.
Good.
Thank you.
Sam?
I'd love to find a construction company that does that.
Oh, well, I can tell you the one that did the library contributed to the operational cost of the South Base.
I thought that was the Christchurch Foundation.
Yeah, but through the Christchurch Foundation.
Anyway.
The Christchurch Foundation is a pass-through organisation.
I'm sorry I've asked. I'm sorry I've asked.
They developed a partnership with South Base.
Oh, right.
So-
right. They're passing it through. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So there are
A
options.
huge benefit to the ratepayers of Christchurch.
Oh, we'll wait for the review.
Sam.
5.8, which is around the that hydrotherapy pool again. Do we know what that would roughly cost? About
2.6.
So they'd need to raise 2.6 million to have it included, and so it's got the Rotary and the local residents association working together
Yes.
to raise. Have we had any thoughts on whether that is feasible?
Yes, we work with them. We met with them last week. There's two pretty key discussions they've got coming up for them, but they've got a fundraising plan of where the money could come from.
Okay.
But they've got two discussions within the next fortnight
Oh,
that
well.
will give them a fairly good indication of where the success for that may
Okay.
lie.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand what you based the wet area size on, like for the main lane pool. How you've come up with 810 square meters, and I'm just wondering how that relates to the other pools that we've been building. Like, how do you determine how much wet space?
It was part of the concept design or the scope that was approved for the pool. So in terms of starting with the size of the pool, which was the 8 lanes, to work through that, and then working backwards through the approved scope by councillors at the time.
Right. It just seems quite significantly more than other pools that we're building, and I just don't quite understand how one community gets a really small pool and the other gets a really big one.
In terms of to go through, if we're making comparisons to another project in terms of it has a lane swimming pool and it has a bombing pool.
I don't think that's appropriate to put that to staff. Thank you. Pauline
So, well,
and
do we
then
have
Aaron.
in terms of our
So
facility
mine-
strategy?
Pauline and then Aaron.
Mine was a supplementary to where Melanie was going with. Where do we sit our accessibility working group into these projects? When does this get run past the group in this process? It should have really been gone to this group
So
earlier. I'm just wondering if we can get clarity for that, so that.
So we've already been talking to members of that group.
But
it hasn't
Aaron,
been-
you're on it.
Yeah, it hasn't been formally through the group, and that's something we need to work through with Rachel. But,
So who have you been talking to?
the disability people of that group, so the
Yeah.
likes of Rachel.
Oh, the staff here, you
the-
mean?
sorry, I
And
can't
external,
remember names off the top of my
but
head.
aren't there external people that you've consulted with about the disability accessibility?
Yes.
So, but what we've tried to set up is a group with all those members, including Carolyn on it and Aaron. And I'm not sure if any other councillors are on it, but that's where we want these things to come through here, so that
I
we're
think
assured
you
that
had a meeting
everything is
this
covered.
week, didn't you?
Sorry, to be clear, in terms of under 6.8 and 6.9 in the concept design, through the COVID period, in terms of there was discussions with a number of accessibility groups,
Yeah.
and where they provided feedback on the design. There's also an audit that's been completed of the concept design to work through, so to make sure that it does meet the requirements that we have. The challenge you will be aware of is in terms of when we're going through and looking at accessibility, what suits one particular demographic may not be perfect for another one. So we're trying to work through what's best for what we can do with the money we've got, but certainly it will come through the group. We've spoken to a number of accessibility groups. Pete can get the names because it's through that COVID time, but there was an audit that will be completed as part of that as well.
So then the supplementary question again is, what is the point of our working group here then?
Yeah, I'm just setting up some meetings next week just
Yeah.
to try and work through some of these issues. So if you could
Yeah.
leave that for
Yeah.
a week.
Because particularly with Aaron brings it up every time, and I know the challenges of trying to please everybody, but we know that a lot of facilities we've built in the past have had the big tick, but they've had a lot of negative comments for certain people that find it difficult to
Yeah, I'm not
work
sure.
in it. So
I don't know whether how much the group reported into your committee, Tim. No, but he reports to your committee.
yeah,
Right, so, I mean, I'm going to meet with you guys next week and try and work through some of these
Yeah,
challenging
good.
issues.
Okay.
Thank you. Aaron?
Nothing to report, unfortunately, but just on here, is ACC, is that accessible? Is that what?
Is that on the
drawings?
one of the room plans?
Yeah, so on the plan for the pool.
Yes.
So ACC is accessible? Is that what that means? Because when you blow it up, it goes fuzzy, so you can't see what's in the
Yes.
room, or the layout of
What
the room.
page are you on, Aaron?
I'm on 112. On the site plan, unless there's a better one to blow up.
on here on the left next to the new swim pool.
Yeah, there's a couple there, and then there's the bed one, and then there's one down by hydrotherapy, but I can't tell from that whether that has a toilet in there.
So page 114
It's better.
maybe slightly better. So yes, the two large accessible change spaces have both got toilets in them.
Oh yeah, and are any of the spaces, the changing spaces design that was brought to the council?
I don't know we've actually got that far through the design detail-wise.
Right, because the thing with the changing spaces concept is world leading, and we don't. And Dawn tried when she first arrived to get one into the convention centre, so it's an accessibility. It'll be the best in the country. Won't be because it was too late because of the square meterage you need 14 square metres, and we couldn't get it through. They wouldn't make an adjustment, even though they hadn't started to fit out. It wasn't deemed important enough. But in our facilities, I would have thought if we could have one, would be good. All the others look like they will be fine, even though they've got swing doors rather than sliders, which is
Still working through that.
normally they say cavity sliders versus swing doors, but but all the ramps going into every pool, fantastic. I think that's a first for Christchurch, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen it anywhere else where someone because it's not just a disabled person being able to go for a swim themselves, they have children and stuff, so they can interact and play with their children in every single pool here, which is fantastic to see. So, but it just around the changing spaces, if you take that away and can find out if we can fit that in with
Dawn would like to comment.
Just a question for Nigel and our officer is, although this is the concept design, recognising you still will need to go to the disability subcommittee, it's important that it can adjust if appropriate. It will be able to do that, will it?
Yes,
Yes, so
Yes.
it's not locked down. That's what I'm driving at.
It's the concept design, so the changing places you spoke about, I believe just been incorporated in the Linwood, so aware of it. And
Oh, so Linwood gets one? Oh, brilliant.
Right, thank you. All right.
Yanni again.
Yeah, it was just regarding the car parking area, the external parking. We had that really cool presentation from Adriana around using impervious sort of materials for stormwater runoff, and I just wondered whether we'd had any progress on that, because this would, reading the kind of stuff around the geotech and the stormwater, it would seem this would be a really good candidate. So I just wanted to check if there was any way that we could check in with that better technology in terms of managing the car parking, the hard surfacing.
Have you looked at that?
yes, we can work through that. I mean, this is bear in mind, this is a concept design. In terms of there's detailed design to go through to do that.
So I think you'll find there's some resolutions from the deputation to get staff to consider
Sorry,
it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was this concrete material that was a lot better for the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what it
Yeah,
is.
having
I've
the
seen
service.
it and I've seen it used. So, but I wasn't obviously there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. No, that's
Anyway.
cool. I just wanted to see. So it sounds like we can look at it. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Just make sure we don't
Good.
forget
Right.
those things.
So I've got a Oh, Phil, did you have a question? Okay. I've got a mover and a seconder. So now I'm opening it up to debate. Any discussion?
Jimmy.
So Jimmy's going to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor,
Oh.
my fellow councillors.
No, well, I mean, usually I get the mover to close the debate, so,
May I
but
just start?
rather than
Maybe start.
try.
You want to start?
Yeah,
I
you
want
can
to start.
start.
It's okay,
I'll come
yeah.
back to you to close.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, and then, no, it's okay, he can open and close as well. That's what the standing orders require, so.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
call them.
thank you, the mayor and my fellow councillors. I believe the mayor and my fellow councillors are all read this item, so I just want to highlight some the crucial point. The first one is the council has been approved the Hornby Centre facility to be built at the Kyle Park at a council meeting on 12 September last year. And also council request report to the council through the community board with the concept design and update cost estimate for approval. So that's why today have a list report. And also the community board, the unanimous to support to occur and also recommend at a community board meeting on 15th of September, which means all the community board and also local council fully support this concept design and recommend the council to approve today. And also the community, wider Hornby community and also Southwest community during the consultation, they earnestly and urgently they would like to the hydrotherapy. Now, this one can be fit in this new Hornby Centre facility because Hornby have quite a few those elderly people or disabled people. We need this one, but due to the budget is restricted, limited. So at the moment, I'm understanding that's a three option. But I'm happy that anytime, the Great Hornby Resident Association, Hornby Rotary, at the moment, they are positively for fundraising with the Rotary and with all those Rota Foundation. So, but probably by the end of this year, a little bit difficult for them to get funding. So I prefer those the kind of fill the gap, not sufficient, not increase those any the cost regarding this one. And this is long-awaited the facility for the wider Hornby and Southwest area, and we are all aware. So please, the mayor and my councillors, to listen to the community. They make this adaptation submission for several times already. I think we never forget. Even last year, they have a head to come here. Please, unanimous to support this concept design to go forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really difficult one because I completely get the passion within the Hornby community for the need for some form of facility. But, you know, at the back of my mind, there's still a real reservation about building on this land. And I know that's been a decision made by previous councils, of which I wasn't a part of. But if you look at other projects we've done around the city, we see continual cost blowout. And, you know, for me, there's still is real reservations around particularly the car park. And I know there's PX information on that, so I won't go into it. But I just think there are real long-term challenges on the construction of that. The other thing that we do have to bear in mind is, you know, as a city under severe financial pressure, to have a net operating cost of $2.8 million a year for this facility, I just wonder whether we could be doing this better. That's not to say they don't deserve a facility, or that community doesn't, but I just wonder whether we severely, you know, we're looking at this in a constructive manner. I think, you know, there are existing facilities out there, and perhaps we could have been a bit more deliberate in our approach of using buildings we have currently. That's not to say we wouldn't put a pool somewhere in Hornby, but I think if you've got libraries that potentially could be updated, then that might be a far better mechanism at the moment. So I just think there are real financial challenges for the city. It's all very well that people, you know, want this in their community. I completely get that. They deserve something. You know, but in the end, we do have to make some hard choices. So I think by signing this off today, the scale of which it is at, we're indebting ratepayers for generations. Again, with another facility in town that quite frankly we can't afford, and that doesn't even go anywhere near, I think, the construction issues we're going to face with this, accepting there is a contingency budget. I just think the early signs on this already indicate there will be challenges, and I don't think it would be responsible of our council today to sign this off, so I won't support it.
Yeah, I think I agree entirely with Sam there. Being a good city councillor, look, isn't about putting as much money as you can into your patch. Advocate strongly on the community board. That's your role. That's the oath that you take. But as a councillor, we know this. Your job is to be looking after every single ratepayer and resident who calls Christchurch their home. So there will be tough decisions. There will be competing projects, but your obligation is to the city as a whole. An enormous amount of funding has already or will go into Linwood Pool, the Metro Sports Facility, the recently opened New Brighton pools, and likely Hornby Pool. And we're talking all within the space of a financial year or two for the lion's share of capital spend. We're a city of not even 400,000 people. We're under enormous financial pressure as a result of COVID. People are struggling to pay their rates, they're struggling to make ends meet, and we are spending too much as a council, and we are borrowing too much as a council. So my strong view is that we need to cool our jets and spend less and borrow less. That will mean that some good projects will have to be deferred. Not because it's fun, no one enjoys doing that, but because exercising discipline and financial restraint is what the whole city really needs from us right now. So Hornby Pool won't just be a good facility, it will be a great facility. Heck, there's a $36 million Warren and Marnie masterpiece. But I think taking a breath now, not approving the concept design plan, considering it through an LTP process where you're taking a true big picture approach, where you're putting those competing interests all on the same page, is the only prudent way to go right now. And I think it's completely irresponsible to be signing off a concept plan today.
Anne?
So this is not just about responding to the passion of a community. This is about providing equitable access to resource that all young people should be able to access. So this is not just a pool, this is a library. This is going to provide high-tech resources to children and young people who actually don't have access to them at home. So we have to think about ourselves as a city and we have made a commitment for all of our people to have the same opportunity. And this is about providing that opportunity. So this project is not going to become a sacrificial lamb to some philosophy of austerity that will actually end up punishing those most vulnerable in our community. So I will indeed be voting very much in favour of this today.
Andrew?
Thank you. I'd like to start by acknowledging and supporting the comments of the two local councillors that have spoken, Jimmy Chen and Anne Galloway, both of whom have been very strong advocates for this facility for as long as they've been involved and for as long as I can remember. This is the next step in the progress of this project, and I believe that it's an important project and one that we should be committed to the delivery of. We've heard through the annual plan process the level of support and the passion in not only the Hornby community but more widely in the southwest for this particular project. And we saw some elements of angst in the community at the thought, regardless of where the seed of that thought was sown, that the project might be delayed or deferred. And community interest in this project, this was acknowledged by Jimmy Chen just a few minutes ago. The passion of the community in this project isn't just been expressed in the last few months. This has been ongoing for many, many years. And I think we need to acknowledge that. Levels of community expectation are high. And I'd like to acknowledge also the energy of the community and their passion for the hydrotherapy pool, and acknowledge the energy and the thought that they're putting into fundraising in the hope that that may be able to be an addition. It would be great to see that resolved as soon as possible, and we heard some comments from staff on that today. The decision to build on this land, which has been referred to, followed a protracted, high-profile and very well-documented debate, particularly around Denton Park as a suitable site. The Kyle Park decision was made in the context of the known challenges with this land. That decision is behind us. We're now working in the environment that we're in. Being a good city councillor, in my view, is about finding the balance between expenditure, rates, need, equity, levels of service, strong communities, the health of our communities, learning and knowledge, and that's what libraries are about, activity, and really balancing and finding the balance between all of those attributes. And I think that's exactly what we've got in front of us as we look at the timing of this particular project. I would also remind people that the Central City, Metro Sports, Linwood and Brighton are nowhere near Hornby geographically. And of course, what we're trying to do is to build community and reduce the need for travel from one side of the city to the other. So the southwest is also bigger than Hornby. This will be a facility that will serve the southwest. So yes, there'll be some projects need to be deferred. Yes, we do need to exercise financial restraint. I don't believe this is one of those projects, and I'll be very happy to support this today.
Phil Major.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think if we look at things a bit different, take the likes of Paparoa, old Paparoa Yard. We've got a lot of stuff that we can sell and get rid of. It's all very well building this, and it's $39 million. We get $2 or $3 million for the Paparoa County Council yard, and there's lots of other bits of dirt lying around that we can get rid of, but we seem to be hell-bent on hanging on to them. Another thing would be that Quaifs Road land. How much land does this community board want? Like, here's, I think, from what I understand, the Quaifs Road land will be about $2 million, $3 million bucks. Chuck that back into the pot. It helps us throw money at this. Like, we can't keep everything and keep buying everything. I agree with the other guys, but we've got surplus stuff lying around all over the place. Get rid of it, and then it'll help for this.
Aaron?
I'm quite stuck on this one because I don't disagree with the design. I like where the design's gone. As far as I'm aware, it would be the only facility in Christchurch with every single pool being fully accessible, which is a good way to lead going forward. I share quite a big boundary ward boundary with Jimmy Chen, so I support him as my fellow councillor. But I also agree with the us being fiscally responsible with this amount of money, and I haven't seen the numbers yet, but I can't wait for them to come back, and no doubt they won't come back before we've finished signing off all the pools, about how many pools Christchurch has per capita and per person. And the problem with any swimming equation or any entertainment entity, no matter what it is that the more you build, you just dilute a particular market. You do grow it partially because of access via an area, but you do dilute how many people do swim or read or game or do whatever. There is a limit, and once you reach that limit, then the cost per swim or the cost per book or the cost per whatever starts getting really, really expensive because you're spreading it over more and more and more facilities. So I'm looking forward to that. I respect the views of those that have come in from Hornby, the Hornby henchmen. I think we should probably call you for your persuasive techniques of getting people over the line. So for that, on this particular item, for the first time this term, I'm going to abstain. I'm not going to vote against it nor for it.
Anyone else? Oh, well, I'm just going to say a few words. So I know that we are facing challenging times, and we are. However, this particular centre is different for a range of reasons, not least of which the amount of time that it took to select the right site for it. So the site selection went through an extensive process. The original desire to build it on Denton Park was rejected by the community, and we listened to them. Should they be punished by not being in the ground, because they would be in the ground by now, simply because we listened to their plea not to build on Denton Park and to put it into Kyle Park, which actually is an incredibly positive use of that, and actually enables us to essentially cover up what was there before, and in relation to putting large facilities on the top of landfills. We've seen that in Pack and Save and the Burwood Port and other places where land has been able to be reutilised in that way. This facility serves a very particular community. So when I went out to the community meeting, and I've been to more than one out in Hornby in regard to this matter, and I listened to those that have great difficulty, especially those that are still in recovery from significant medical and accidents and various other events, where there are constraints on them getting the support they need to go to a pool for their exercise, which is part of their rehabilitation. Because they can't get there, the money runs out for the additional support that they get for a period of time, and then they simply can't get. I do think that we do need to have these facilities in communities. I particularly wanted this one to be close to where the children are. The children won't necessarily be able to get into town to utilise the Metro Sports facility. There were a range of decisions that were made about the blueprint that the community didn't have any engagement over. This one's been thoroughly engaged, and I really do want to see it proceed. So even though we're talking about the concept design today, I think the concept design is worthy of our support, so I would like to support it. James, did you?
Kia ora. Look, at the beginning of today's meeting, I thought I was firm in my support for this take or this kaupapa or project, and then I've had cause to think through the financial issues that have been raised. However, I think that we're at an early stage for one thing, but I think we've got to put a line in the sand and say that we are supporting our wider community. I accept that we may have to, the financial issues are valid, and I think somewhere along the line we're going to have to cut our cloth differently to how we've got it right here, right now. And some of that cloth that we'll discard may be things that I feel really strongly about. So at this point in time, I'm going to support this motion.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. So that's Sam and James, and one abstention from Aaron. Thank you very much. So that's carried. Yes. So that's 11:57. So we might as well. Hey?